So everything should be working. And hello everyone. Today I will be continuing on the Black Knight that I have been doing for quite some time right now. If anyone is new in here, I'm just basically redesigning all the monsters from Diablo 1 for fun and for practice and everything. So yeah, this is pretty much a little bit more advanced stage of a redesign. And I also need to turn off. Okay, I needed to turn off the YouTube in the background because I was hearing myself. So yeah, pretty much this is what I have. And I thought that I had some notes on what I wanted to work on, but I don't think I do. Yes, I do have. So I need to like rework the leg slightly, kinda change the proportion here, add some more spikes and render the sword and just render this shoulder pad. So this is a plan for today. So let me start actually with the sword. So what I will do now is try to turn off all the communicators that I don't need. Yeah, so let me go for display capture so you will be able to see the liquify and what I do with it. And also, as always, if anyone has any questions or whatsoever, feel free to ask them. I will try to respond to every questions best to my knowledge. And also, if anyone did any type of an artwork and you would like to get a feedback for it or whatever, or just you would like to share it and you would like me to see it, feel free to drop the link in the chat, preferably on Twitch, because on YouTube it might be, where is the freeze? It might be a bit hard to go through the bots and everything. YouTube does not really allow links and stuff like this, so yeah. And if also anyone is wondering, using Liquify is, in my opinion, one of the best and the easiest ways to like quickly adjust the painting, to like change some stuff, because it allows you to basically like remake the geometry without like losing pixels and everything. So it's relatively cool way to work. And also because you have like a freeze option, then you don't really need to like worry about anything at all, and it basically allows you to like quickly change everything that you might want to change. So for example, all the angles, like slight redesigns of the silhouette and everything to increase. Yeah, this is just like generally a good tool. And also by freezing, it means when I transform something, it does not change the geometry that is freezed. I mean, like change the pixels, because there are like no geometry in here. It was just like a simplification. I kind of wanted the legs to be a little bit more like sportsy in a shape, because I felt they are a little bit too thick, and I felt adding a little bit more like shape to them would most likely increase the like will make the design a bit better. It won't increase anything, but yeah. And also in here there is somewhere in here there's like a reconstruct. No, reconstruct tool. So for example, if you don't really like the change that you have made, you can just like reconstruct it and everything will be fine. And you can like work again on some areas and everything should work a bit better. I want this arm to be pushed slightly to the left, to kind of like remodel the shoulder pad and everything. Not a big changes, but all the like small things throughout the entire design will add up, and yeah, it will basically make the entire design look a bit better. I kind of like the thick tie in here, so I will keep it. But even now, as you can see, the legs definitely look better. Like the entire silhouette flows a little bit nicer, so I do believe this is a nice change. So one of the things that I also need to do is to like okay, and to move the microphone to the center. That I want to make is to kind of like also redesign the shield, because I don't really like how it looks like. I feel the design of it is a little bit like off. I'm not sure if I want to keep like the lower jaw, so I will need to like slightly experiment with it because I'm just not sure. Now it kind of looks like the memes of Steven, so it's definitely not a good change to remove the lower jaw. But something with the shape of mouth of this shield is just not right for me. I had the problem with it like previously, and I just couldn't pinpoint what it was. Like it was just looking weird for me. It was kind of doing this like emote type of a shape that I was not really fond of. It was just not looking really good. So yeah. But we might try to like improve on it, because it's not the hardest thing to do. Stuff like this can be like can be done a little bit more rough. If you are trying to like search for the design, there's like no need for me to polish everything right now, because by polishing I will just like waste a lot of time, and like the rough redesign as I do now gives me enough information on how I would like it to look like. And I kind of like the idea of this surface like going into the mouth. So it looks like it's not laughing in a sense. It kind of creates this this type of a like fold, like a cheek or whatever. So it kind of looks more like it's screaming or something like this. Well, one layer. I feel it works nicely. Let's see. With the previous teeth. Yeah, covering of this area, I think kinda improves on the design. Not much, but kinda. I don't really have a lot of ideas for this shield, like much more than them, so most likely this shield will be just like left a bit more a little bit more destroyed or something like this. So yeah, but I will definitely keep this cheek type of a thing going like in here. Maybe I will just remove this teeth, this tooth from here, so it will like create a little bit more interesting of a shape in here. So again, it's not perfect, but well, it never will be perfect. So I just sometimes gotta take some liberties. Hello, Mikołaj. I need to take some liberties and just go with something that is just not perfect, but is finished. And I'm relatively happy like with how the shield turns out. I feel if I were to improve on it any further, most likely it will be like in a new piece in the next monster or whatever, because I also don't want to like spend like entire year doing like one monster. And also today, when I was like slightly messing with the file before starting the stream, I kind of discovered a nice way to really quickly bring up the quality of the entire thing, and soon I will do this. I just need to like render the sword. So yeah, the biggest mission for today is definitely a sword and the cloth. The cloth is something that I wanted to do for a longer period of time. But before we proceed with the cloth, let me just also add some stuff in the background. So I will have like one element finished, because with the background again, relatively easy change. It just requires me to make a new layer pretty much and to just like paint with, well, not current and below. Let's select all layers and to like paint with the shapes that I consider interesting. And this is pretty much all. So basically everything that kind of like reminds of ribs and stuff like this is fine in my opinion. So it should like do the work. And because these are in the background, I don't really need to like really put a lot of effort into them. They can be done like a little bit more lazily because they are not even like close in the focus area. But I still can, for example, make some overlaps of some forms. So for example, instead of like this going like this, let me paint in white so you can see instead of them doing like this, I prefer them to go something like this. So they create some sort of a form and just are a little bit more interesting to look at. And most likely will just improve the vibe of the painting. So yeah, this is like my general idea, my general thinking while designing those guys. It's kind of hard to say designing because this is like not really a design, I would say, in terms of like things like this in the background. I won't say they are designed. I would say most likely like this is my take on adding stuff to the piece to improve the general design, so I can like expose it a little bit more, so I can shift the focus a little bit more to the main element of this piece. So yeah, of course not always I will do such things, like if I have done them in here, maybe in here it's good to actually do them the opposite way, so like the middle one will go like behind the frontal one, so there is also some variety included. But yeah. And also recently I have been thinking kinda about like maybe changing the topic. So instead of like going for Diablo, maybe I will start like another series with, for example, Heroes of Might and Magic, just to change the topics a bit. But it was just like a loose idea, so I won't like really commit to any game like completely. And also it will be kind of refreshing, so we could change the style a bit, change the vibe a bit for it, but I will see. I really like, oh, and also I can go back to Photoshop sharing instead of the screen sharing, because Photoshop again managed to crash the file. So I need to like reopen the Black Knight. So let me open it. And yeah. Yeah, I feel the background could be a little bit more evil. I feel these elements are a little bit too thin to be in a background. And I was also thinking about some bigger structures. So maybe like just to showcase some bigger stuff. A cool idea if you want to add things to the background is not to actually like color pick and paint them universally, because for example this color can appear much brighter in one spot and much darker in a different spot. So a cool way to approach it is to actually go with like, let's say, multiply and just reduce the opacity. So this way you can paint with one color, but the color will appear differently in different like places of a painting, because like on the top it will be darker because the background is darker, and on the bottom it will be lighter because the background is a bit lighter. So this might be a cool idea, and also it allows you to like quickly like rework the things like this. And because this is like a Hell's Knight, like a knight from hell basically, I can imagine a lot of like bony structure to be around him, especially since, let me show you only the The screenshot, Diablo 1 hell, because also recently I have been thinking about maybe even redesigning some locations, so I could show, like I could redesign, for example, the entire dungeon. It will be cool, and to populate it with some monsters, but what I wanted to show you is, I think this is actually a good idea, is how the hell looks like in Diablo 1. It's basically like something on the ground. Well, but actually kind of fits to this idea of this ground. I did it like non-purposefully, but you can see like everything is pretty much made out of like bones. So there are like a lot of bones happening and some corpses and everything. So maybe I will add like something in the background a bit. But what is really cool are those like bony structures, and basically I can imagine this is like blood, because they had to like put something in here. In my case, it won't be blood. In my case, I wanted to keep it a little bit more dark. But I can still like utilize on those elements, and I can add like some spikes here and there. Also, this will kind of tie the character to the background, because we can see like similar shape language appear not only like on him, so it's not like only this part is tied to this part, but actually the entire environment is kind of like tied to the design. So we can see he is in his like domain at the moment. And again, this is like not a huge change, it's relatively easy to add, but it can like make the entire painting just a little bit more interesting. And if I just don't want certain areas to have like any details, for example, I think those areas like around his head should be relatively clean. I can just like remove the things that I have painted. So yeah, and also this is why I like adding this type of details, because it's just easy, I would say, and everybody likes easy stuff. So adding some like pillars and shit and whatnot, it's just making the background a bit more interesting. A bit of smudging also won't hurt, because this everything in here is like behind the fog. Basically, it means every edge will get much softer, which means we can just play with stuff like this. And of course, I could render like the background too, so I could like add form and everything to it, and most likely it will improve the entire painting, but I have not planned for it. Maybe at some point I will do an illustration type of a thingy. In here I wanted to have something that is just a bit more like a basic background that is not really taking a lot of attention from the main part. So so the background should be, in my opinion, relatively simple, without much depth to it. Just like some basic front plane, second plane, back plane, or whatever. Most likely will be enough. And also for the background, I have been thinking how to quickly improve the quality of it. And like the easiest way I imagine is to just download some like cool looking photos with like smoke texture or whatever, and to see what I can do with it to like blend it into the background, because this type of a thing can really easily improve the quality for it. So for example, like color dodge, as always, makes the entire thing instantly look better, because color dodge is just like a catchy, it just looks nice. So it has some areas that are a little bit too bright, but if I will like reduce the fill, also usually reducing the fill is better than opacity. Opacity will like uniformly make the entire thing like just dimmer. Fill kind of reduces the brightest areas. I don't know if you can really see a lot of the difference, but the difference is, there is a difference for it. So, and I need to kind of figure out how I want to place this texture, because I kind of feel like throwing it somewhere in here is a good idea, like across the character maybe a bit. So yeah, also always make sure that you know where are the bounds of the texture, to just slightly remove it from from the painting, because sometimes it happens that you will get this like 1% of an overlay on top of your painting, and you will have like a line like clearly visible that you will like notice later, as you can see in here. I do believe, yeah, this is in a painting, and this is because I have made some adjustments previously, and this is exactly like this type of a line that I was talking about. So now I should like try to blend it or paint over it, or see if this is like an overlay. Yeah, this is a fog. So as you can see, a fog basically creates like a line that kind of cuts the geometry in there, and I don't really like it. I feel it's better without it. So yeah, a really quick fix, but the background seems a little bit more populated. And also the thing that I wanted to have is to kind of make the entire surrounding a little bit more claustrophobic. So now it's much more empty. Like you can imagine there are like empty spaces. You will just basically wander around, and most likely you won't find much. In here you can see that most likely really fast you will like touch a wall or whatever, which kind of fits to the general idea of what I wanted to do. And now, do I need to, well, I need to move the background in here, and let me flatten everything. So yeah, the entire background is like one layer, and the fog frontal plane will be thicker, because I want to make it more thick in the front and less thick in the back. And also I want the front part, I will just like quickly liquefy it. Yeah, if you could send a link on Twitch, it would be cool, because as I said, yeah, it's pretty much it. So no problems with it. Yeah, so this is this. And now, to make everything look a little bit better, as I mentioned, I was kind of experimenting, like just playing for a second in Photoshop with it, asking the well-known Oracle, yeah, I guess Oracle, and I used image and I used autocolor. And what it did, it basically made everything much brighter. So I also tried auto contrast, it also made everything brighter, but I also tried autotone, and autotone like gave it this blue, like cold type of a light, which I'm not sure if I really like, but I definitely like the increased contrast. So a really easy way, let me make a display capture, a really easy way to quickly add much more light to your painting is to basically just, well, to just duplicate your layer, go to the image, make like auto contrast, auto color. Auto color kind of introduces some greens to it, and I kind of like it. And then you could like mask it, inverse the mask, so now everything from that layer is hidden, and you can slowly paint it back. So yeah, the general idea how it works is the Photoshop kind of tries to, like, according to its knowledge that it has about photographs, it kind of tries to match the, it kind of tries to create the entire spectrum of values out of the painting that you have, and usually it will make it much more contrasting. It will make it a little bit brighter. So for example, this is like one of the ways you could like add it, and if you will look in black and white, it like improves the values in the areas where they should be improved. So this is like a really one nice method of doing it. And the second method that I personally prefer is to just go to the layer styles and to use blending modes and to just make it ignore everything that is like darker, and by pressing Alt you will make it go with a gradient, so there will be like a space for it to go darker or brighter. So as you can see, it works really well for like adding a lot of light to the character. to kind of like make this additional layer of light, and then adding a mask, and then removing light from the places where I just don't want the light to be that strong. So for example, the shield, the background, and so on and so on. In normal painting, the way I will do it after like finishing the sword is I will make the auto color and auto contrast and everything on a separate layers. So I will be able to like control everything much more. So yeah, so these are the things that I would like to do. But before I do, let me just also rework. Let me rework these areas. And I think I will just keep the design of the shoulder armor that I have, because I don't really have much more, like, let's say, cool ideas, so to speak. Hello, Marta. Because I don't have any cool ideas, so to speak, for it, and I kind of feel it just works. So yeah, I mean, it's not the best design, but it is some sort of a design, so it gives me like the general idea. So yeah, I will clean up the entire arm on a new layer. As always, if you can, just work on a separate layer so you can like turn on and off everything that you have done. Yeah, for a brief second when I was at not Trojan Horse was Unicorn, I was at Promised Land at Łódź like some 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and they had like a stand with like stuff from Apple and Procreate, and I have been using it for like 10 minutes and I fell in love with it. It's a great, let me see the image size, it's a bit small. It's a great piece of equipment and it was really pleasant to use, and actually now I am kind of thinking about buying iPad just for the sake of drawing and recording like the process videos and everything in it, because it's just easier, for example, for Instagram. But it like convinced me that this is a good thing after like 10 minutes of using it. So, and I only heard good opinions about it, which is convincing enough for me to go for it. But at the moment I kind of have a little bit more like, let's say, important things to buy and stuff like this. So at the moment I can't buy the thing, but I can only recommend it, honestly. The brush responsiveness and the quality of the brushes, how easy it was to use, how like pleasant was the entire experience of painting. Well, it was just okay. It was just really good. I had nothing to complain about, which is nice. It's a rare occasion that you don't have anything to complain about with those type of a software. And also, given the fact that I'm not really a huge fan of Apple and their marketing strategies and everything, I understand why they do such certain things, but I never just liked their things and what they like now stand for. But I have to give them the fact that this is a great piece of hardware and a really good software. So in this case, they have the edge over me. As I said, I never liked Apple products that much. I think they are overpriced, overhyped, and that's pretty much all. So yeah. Whoops. But there is a possibility that today I will like manage to finish the 2D version of this painting. I don't think I will work on it much more. I could, of course, like render the shit out of it, but I kind of feel like after looking at it now, it's just more of a thing of like continuing practice and just slowly improving the quality instead of like trying to go too hard on one thing. And I kind of also fancy the fact that the next design is a skeleton, but before I will actually finish the skeleton, I will go back to Carver and I will finish the Carver because I forgot that I have not finished on the Carver, that I kind of left him and started and did like a new randomizing thing when Naimul was around. So yeah, it's a really, I can like delay the skeleton for a bit longer. Oh, what is also always cool. And for other things that are Diablo related, I have been playing, maybe not like tons, but quite a lot. Let me see. Oh, it works. No, I don't see the link, but let me open the Twitch, so I will check in there. Or just send it to me via Facebook. It also will do the trick. So yeah, just send it via Facebook. I will need to figure something out on like the place where you can post links and that I can keep it open, because I don't really want to have the Discord opened every single time that I have the stream on, because Discord is a wild place and I don't want anything wild to happen. So yeah, but anyway, I have been playing a lot of Diablo 2 and it's a really cool game. I mean, it always was a cool game, but the Resurrected, they have done it beautifully. Like, easily the best remaster I have ever seen. And the quality of everything is over the top, like over the roof. It's like beautiful game. I don't remember the name of the studio, shame on me. But the studio that was working on it also now is like a part of Blizzard as far as I know. They outdone themselves. It's like spectacular amount of work and spectacular amount of quality. The cool thing is now this game looks like how I remember, how I remember it, because like I am a fanboy of Diablo series, and they managed to capture exactly the feeling that I had for the game, and they managed to like make the visuals in a way that I feel like I believe this is how this game always have looked like. And also there's a way to go back to like the legacy, let's say, so the original version, as we prefer to say it, is not legacy, we are not old, version of the game. And honestly, I'm terrified. I thought that game looked better. It looks okay-ish still, but I really thought it looks better. I have no idea of the amount of pixels it has. I knew it is pixelated. Melving Pain 123 rates. Hello, thanks. Kari Academia. I have no idea where Kari Academia is. Oh. There are some stuff happening. Colorful links finally are appearing. This is a new thing. So yeah. But hello, Warren. What I was saying about Diablo. I forgot that this has like so many pixels in it. There is a way to like switch back to the old thing, and it kind of baffled me. As I said, I remember this game to look much better. Okay, let me look at it. Let me open it. Whoops. Let me just drag the file. So, this is a drawing of Mikołaj Piątochowski. He's actually a brother of a friend of mine, with which I used to study industrial design. So for the drawing, it looks cool. It has some like areas that could be improved. So well, like this feels kinda like off. It's a little bit too thin for my feeling. And also stuff like this, let me just draw on a separate layer. Stuff like this, it's better if they like just overlap. So visually it's a little bit more interesting. Usually it does not look good when something is like really tight, like one to one in terms of like touching itself. So this is one of the thing. This could be a bit longer. I mean, most likely you have the original reference, so there are some areas that I think you can see could be improved. This arm is like really short. It should be longer. Usually the straightened arm can reach to the middle of a thigh, more or less. It is not true for everyone, but usually this is how it works. And for stuff like this, again, also this arm could be a bit bigger. Then most likely this area will be a bit thinner. Same for this area. And the head could be slightly bigger and a little bit more up top. So it will like the presence of a knight will look just a bit better. And other than that, it looks kind of okay. The light source could be specified a bit more. So this is like usually the thing with those type of drawings. So just decide from where the light source is. Let's say it's like from here. So this stuff will be just casting shadow and it will be just darker. So for example, this entire area will be like in a shadow. This will be a bit darker. This will be a bit darker. Like, don't be afraid to go dark. Usually it's much better if you will go more with the shapes of the shadow and light form instead of like rendering every single like thing that we have in here. Because if the light setup is bad, no amount of rendering will like save you. But if the light and colors are bad, are good, then it will look basically much better. And to kind of prove it, I mean, it will look good. So to prove it, just let me show you like again a painting of Konstantinos, because he like, if there is one person that I could say nailed the art of light, it's him. Well, it's not this. Let me just download it. It's him. So let me include some of his paintings in here. Especially I need one with like a dragon, because this is the best painting for, in my opinion, to show what he can do. Oh, there it is, Dragon Knight. Yeah, so the thing with those painting is, why are they so small? Oh, okay, because they are thumbnails. So the thing is, from here, if we look at them from the distance, they look like really good. They basically look photographs. But the thing is, it's because they have a really good colors and they have like just nice values and everything. But if you go up close, also it's like, let me make them bigger so you could read the signature. It's Konstantinos Skenteridis, Kings Kostas. But what makes them good is not the amount of detail. So for example, this dragon has no details at all, but from the distance it looks completely fine. Like, you see all the muscles and everything, you just know where they are because the volume and everything looks correctly. And as you can see, like for example, if I would try to do something like this and to get away with it, with painting the background, then yeah, it's not happening. But for him, it looks completely perfectly fine. Same for this thing. I have no idea what approach and brain processing I would need to, brain power I would need to have to like accept something like this. But it's not because I like don't know why he is doing it. It's because it will be way too hard for me currently to work this way, because my understanding of light and value and form and everything is not like huge. It's not like big enough to like make something like this look good. And the rest of the painting, like the same story. Clever use of like textures and yeah, and it basically makes a nice painting. And same for this guy. It looks like a photo. Honestly, I would have problems to finish it more because at this stage it's already finished. Like, of course, you can always polish stuff, but as you can see, the shadow shapes and everything, like the light and shadow makes like a difference, not the amount of details. And in pencil, you can also try to do this. Just use softer pencils. So it will be cool. But yeah, but going back to this night, yeah, well, I'm continuing to do this. Now I see I have like the most viewers I have ever had, which is nice. So hello everyone who is new. If anyone is wondering, I'm just like redesigning monsters from Diablo 1 for the sake of practice and just because I like this game. And also, if anyone would like to get a critique or whatever of their artwork, feel free to like drop a link in Twitch preferably, so I could like go over the painting or just like comment on it or whatever. So yeah, it could maybe be a little bit more helpful for you guys. And yeah, time to do those type of things. And again, yeah, but going back to Diablo, because this is like Diablo usually topic, it's a main topic. I think what they did with Resurrected is great. It's beautiful. The game looks spectacular. The monster design is actually is also amazing because they are really solid with them. Like they're really true to the original, but they sometimes like include some changes that just make the entire thing much better. And my favorite example are fetishes from Act 3. Back in the days, I always thought they have some sort of a mask and that they have like those kind of like afro type of a thing on their head, and now they made them like into like those small demons that basically have like giant heads. So let me search if I could find them. Diablo Resurrected. What kind of made me hate those monsters even more, because now they are like properly terrifying. Diablo wiki. Yeah, so in old, let me search if I can. Yeah, in the game they look like this, and I always thought they had like some sort of a like mask on them or whatever. I like never understood. These are actually teeth, and now can I find? Yeah, now I somehow found the like some old drawing. So yeah, I guess this is like some sort of an original drawing. I have no idea who is the original artist, and this is like a redesign. And boy, this looks really scary because like the head is like so out of proportion of the entire body. It looks much better. Like this is kind of the way I imagined them, but I thought this is a mask, not a teeth. In here I can see it's teeth, and in game they also look really cool. So yeah, it's a really good design, and also a really good redesign. So. But again, yeah, it is clear that they couldn't hire better people to work on this remaster because every single thing just looks as it should look. There were some like voices that some things look bad with the faces, but I like how the faces look like. There is something off with them. I have no idea what it is. I can't pinpoint it exactly to say what is wrong with them. They feel kind of like kind of like you know how to make a perfectly photorealistic face, but there's just something off with the realism to it, like a different style of a realism. It's not necessarily bad. I feel it fits to the Diablo 2 stylistics perfectly, but it's the only thing that looks kind of odd. Also in cinematics and everything, the faces just feel kind of stiff. I don't know if like the team that was working on the faces does not really have a lot of experience with them, but there is just something that does not really click with me for them, but the rest is beautiful. Like this is like a really minor thing, so it like did not affect the general impression that I had on the game. Now I kind of wonder if I maybe should paint the sword symmetrically. Yeah, I will do this. And later I will just adjust it in the perspective. Do I want to play with stuff like this? Nah. Too much hassle for something relatively simple. Just grab a bit more heavy brush for it. Kinda want to include some similarities in the design of the handle. So like this really like subtle type of a bend in here, I feel is a nice touch. Usually if it's possible, now I try to avoid making like obvious and simple curves. Not because they look bad, but because more developed curves just tend to look a bit better. And with stuff like this, with swords and everything, it's always a good idea to like rotate a lot and to mirror your screen a lot, because it just makes your brain to perceive the entire thing a little better, and it's easier to spot any mistakes that you might find. So yeah, I guess it looks, well, it looks okay-ish. Yeah, and also previously someone like who wrote it's a raid. I don't think I have turned on any notifications for a raid, but as I said, there are a little bit more viewers than usual. So if anyone did a raid, thank you. I am relatively like still new to streaming and everything on Twitch. I'm more used to like YouTube and everything, so I have no idea what does it do exactly. But I mean, it's fine. It's okay. I will learn one day. Let's see. And always, usually, if you are painting something in detail, as I am doing right now, remember to zoom out, because if you are zoomed in for way too long, it's way too easy to like mess something up. For example, now I feel the blade is a bit too bright, like this part of a sword. I have no idea how it's called, especially when it's doubled. I feel it's a bit too bright. So like painting in close can give you like a false impression of doing something correctly. So remember, zooming out is important. It's always a good thing to zoom out, especially when you are starting the painting, because then like you always should work from general to details, so never start working on details first. But for a blade, I will actually do the thing symmetrically. So I will copy paste it, transform it so it's vertical. A nice thing to see if something is vertical is to just move the screen to the side and adjust it according to like an opened window. It always works. And I will just mostly refine the shape, because I want the shape to be really nice. And with swords and everything, like the shape is the most important thing. So if the shape is interesting, and then you will manage to lit it up properly, so you will add a good amount of details to it with light, then it will look like really good. And also having a solid shape, so something that has like 100% of opacity, it will make it 10 times more easier to achieve sharp edges, which usually is a thing that is desired in a painting. And also to make a nice curve of the sword on top. You can see it, yeah, on top there is smoothing, so if you press smoothing on 100%, it really makes it light years easier to like create a nice curve for a sword. So the problem is now I'm trying to go to like make a pointy end type of a thing. What? So yeah, and also smoothing basically makes it impossible to make a small small changes, small strokes. So it needs a bit of a space to like smoothen out everything. But if we have something like this, what we can do now is we can do a really simple thing. We can just select, or we can like finish the shape first. You can clean it up from all the trash that we don't want to have here. So for example, this edge is something that we basically don't need. And also for swords with designs like this, I'm not necessarily against like this high fantasy type of a designs and everything, where like the entire sword doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I'm also not against it completely. So adding some stuff that most likely won't work in real life, so for example, like some spikes on the blade or whatever, don't really trigger me that much, especially since this is like just a cool thing to look at. If it looks cool, I sometimes usually will give it a pass as something that is okay. So for example, I don't know, maybe making cut in a blade in here does not really make a lot of sense from the practical standpoint of view. I don't see any reason for a blade to have something like this, apart from like being weaker in there. But in terms of like making the silhouette of a sword a bit more interesting, like why not? But in here I will try to commit to something more, let's say, realistic. So now I basically select half of the sword, and this is the half that I know will be in a shadow. I turn symmetry off, and now I can basically prepare and block the shape, lock the alpha channel, and now I can basically prepare the shape for the rendering. And if I just invert the selection, it allows me to basically go over the thing like this. What basically makes painting the entire sword much easier, because then I will just like adjust this shape into perspective. I will just transform it so it will fit the general thing. And now also like deselect and work on some stuff like this. And I will be able really easily, really fastly to paint all the light and all the details of the surface and whatnot. So for example, this area I can imagine to be a little bit darker because it's like in the shadow. And this area, I kind of like this type of a rib cagey type of a thing to happen in here. I have no idea how to say it differently, but let's kind of call it like this. So at the moment also it's not like a steel type of a thing. It does not look like a steel, but yeah, it looks okay-ish. I just need like a good base to start rendering. And using dodge, like how it was called, dodge tool, it's relatively easy to add some like highlights to the blade. So, but this is also a thing that I usually add after like placing everything in the perspective. So let me just transform it, and before placing anything in the perspective, convert it to the smart object. So this way, if you do something like this by accident, you still maintain the transformation, which is always a good idea to work on a safer version of a file. And now in here I just basically adjust the perspective. So just remember, the bottom part, for example, this line will go to the horizon line, and the top part also will go to the horizon line. It does not change much, but it changes a bit on how like the transformation behaves. So again, it's not a huge change, but it will affect the painting a bit. For example, something like this will clearly be wrong because you can see the angles don't match. So I kind of try to make like this line to go the same direction as like those lines go. So just to keep it in mind, because sometimes I see people are forgetting about it. They just like zone out a little bit too much, Now I can also remove the old blade. The problem is like the middle line is not in the center. Like it should not be in the center. It should be slightly to the side, because perspective and everything, it has some sort of a thickness to it. But again, this is like a Photoshop, and in Photoshop I can be like relatively lazy with stuff like this. I will just select this part, press Ctrl Alt Tab. I will just slightly move it to the side and adjust, well, and adjust the curves accordingly. So yeah, and I will also block the alpha channel. So after blocking the alpha, I kind of like prefer this shape more. So it's like going like this. And if I feel the color is just not right, the sliders go brr, and I can like adjust them, and I will color pick stuff from the knight. It's itself basically. I don't know if it's like he or she. It has more like male presence to it, but who are we to judge? And I will just color pick from it. So yeah, so the colors will be basically the same. And I will keep in mind something along the line that, for example, a golden thing can like reflect a bit of a light to it. But since I wanted to make, as I did in the horns, that there's like this blue and golden things to go together against each other, I feel adding those type of details to the blade is also fine. So for example, in here, some of the gold parts will just basically shine through the blade. So yeah, let me just go like this. I feel it's just a neat type of a detail to include. It definitely is a nice thing to have, and this is also something that I have learned from more skilled artists from the place where I work in, because they showed me a lot of those cool type of tricks. And also this is one of the things that I have noticed many other artists are doing, kind of to just differ the texture basically. So it makes rendering flat surfaces much easier, and it's much more pleasurable. So yeah. And also again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And going back to Diablo, if anyone is interested, I am playing Boazon, so basically Amazon with the bows. I never played it before. I only played Amazon several times. My most successful build was with the... How to won't lie to you. It was a Javazon, I believe, with javelins, and I was throwing some spears with lightning to them. I completely don't remember the name of the item. It was relatively easy name, but I just forgot it. So yeah, but it was fun, and the bow also is a lot of fun. Bow is fun. So yeah, and also for the sword, I want the top part to be darker. I kind of want only this area like to shine a little bit more, because I don't want any attention to be grabbed to the top of a painting. The top part is basically not interesting at all for us. So this is why I want to like move everything a little bit more down. So let me save it and let me mirror it. Yeah, right now I can see there are some issues in here with those angles. For example, the angle on the left, even though they were like drawn symmetrically, appears to be a little bit more on the top. So this is also one of the things that sometimes you need to take in consideration. Sometimes for something to make it look like it's made evenly, like it's made properly, you will need to adjust it optically. So not the mathematical type of like center will do the work, you have to like offset the thing. So for example, this is, I believe, one of the easiest examples I have ever seen, especially when it's thick. So for example, if you have like an L letter, not liter, and if you will remove those type of things, there is a tendency to feel like the one is slightly higher than the other one, or that the thickness is different, which is not the case. So usually sometimes people will just adjust it and like move it slightly like lower or something like this. So let me just duplicate it. Well, where it is, so let me just duplicate it, so we can like lower this part a little bit more, and now it looks more like it's in a line, even though it's not, because you can see it does not overlay, but it just looks a little bit more balanced. And sometimes these are the things that you have to do while you're painting. So yeah, it's good to keep it in mind that stuff like this can happen. Also, for a design for this fella, I was not really thinking a lot about the sword. I kind of wanted to make more something that looks a little bit more like the original. So it's designed my lag a bit behind the rest, because I put much more thought into the armor. But well, it does not really matter that much. Again, this is just a practice piece to experiment with different techniques and everything, so it will be good. It should be good. And also the thing that I really want it to have is the gem, because in the original the Black Knight has a gem. This actually scared me. I was not expecting a barbarian to shout right now. This did me a little scare, and thanks for following. So yeah, no problem. It's my fault for setting like stuff like this, which is kind of funny because I usually don't get easily jump scared. Like, I have been playing fuckload of different horrors and everything, and jump scares don't really usually work on me. But yeah, I am not expecting any jump scares on the live stream. So yeah, but the blade looks kinda okay. It looks kinda like it's made out of plastic. I mean, the blade on this area kinda looks like shit. I will remove it. I think no, the 3 will be fine, but this area needs to be brighter. It was too dark previously. This was why it was looking kinda odd. And also, according to what I have done on the armor, I want to include some of those like brighter flashes of light throughout the surface, so it will look slightly more interesting, hopefully slightly more interesting. So for example, in the shadow area, because the shadow area will basically reflect the light from the environment, but still there is not much light in the environment, so it won't reflect tons of the stuff. And because again the blade most likely is made out of some sort of a like really dark type of a steel that is heavily oxidized because of the temperature that is in the hell, I can imagine the blade to not really be too shiny. I can imagine the blade to be a little bit darker. And also, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people will avoid painting swords and add some sort of a mace or whatever. It's because just painting long flat surfaces usually is just hard and boring, and in my case it's not the most interesting thing that I have done in my life. And if it looks like it's easy for me, it's definitely not. I do need to kind of focus a bit more on how to like make the flat surface a bit more interesting. And as I said, one of the ways is to like include a second type of a color to kind of break down some areas, so it will just look slightly more interesting. Also, it can be rust or whatever. I can imagine that those type of demons don't really care about keeping their weapons like really clean and stuff like this. If they like break it, they most likely will get another one from the Hell's Armory, which makes them, I do believe, a bit more prone to rust. But yeah, again, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And also the only thing that I kind of wanted to have nice is an edge. So there will be a bit of a brighter edge. Still don't like this area. Highlights. So yeah. I want the gem to be a bit more shiny, but I also don't want it to be like too bright, which most likely means I will need to kind of like mute it down and to take this bluish type of a hue, paint over it, because the gem, if it's like shiny, it also will reflect the light that we have around this fella. So it's a lot of grays and whites and everything and blues, so the reflection most likely will be a bit more bluish, and it also makes the entire thing to look a bit more like unified. So for example, in here the reflected light will lead the gem from the bottom, and now as you can see it looks much more like natural. It does not look like a crappy gem that is just glowing for the sake of glowing. You can even take like a white, just make a small highlight at the top, so it will make it like pop out a bit more for the viewer, because the edge now is hard, and the same thing appears in here. This one is a little bit more pink, I think, so I can just like copy those into the same spots, and I will just like paint over this guy because I want the gems to actually have the same color. I don't want to have like differently colored gems. Not that it matters that much, but if we can be what was the word? If we can be, it was something on a C. I meant consequent with the design and with the colors, then we better be, because it does not cost us much, and it makes the entire painting look much better. Consistent. Yeah, consistent. This is the word. Not consequent also kind of is, but yeah, I was thinking about consistent. Thanks a lot. Yes, this is what happens when you use your not native language to talk. You forget words in both of the languages you try to use. How many times I forgot a word in Polish language is like beyond my brain. Like constant thing. And sometimes I want to say a word, but I don't even remember it in Polish and in English. And I can't even form a definition for it, so it is kind of funny from time to time. Usually it's not that funny, but sometimes it is a bit of a fun. Yeah, now also for the edge, because I can imagine the edge to be a bit sharper. And if something is a bit sharper and a bit more jagged, then I can see the edge a bit glowing a bit more. So it will catch a bit more light, and also it will help to make the entire thing read a bit better. Also, this line in the middle does not really need to be like extremely perfect, because I can I do expect some sort of a damage to to be made to the sword. And I kind of want to make this edge not so bright. I kind of feel it introduces some weird like readability problems for it. I don't think this edge will be like as bright. So let me just like dissolve this edge a bit more. Sometimes to dissolve also I think it's good to like soften it by going over it, so there will be a bit of a glow on top of it, so it's not like a solid line that is in the middle, but it will be kind of like a line that goes through the middle and over the middle, which kind of softens the entire thing a bit more. Yeah, but again, rendering long flat surfaces is definitely a topic I need to study a bit more, because it gives me some problems while trying to render it. And I kind of feel this area could go downward. I don't really like the fact that all of those arrows are kind of like pointing up, so I feel like making something like this actually is a reasonable thing to do, but it looks kind of odd. So maybe instead of like having it to be darker, maybe I will just include a golden finish to it. There's like a distinction happening and it looks a bit better. And same in here. It does not need to be like all over it, but it could just decorate this part in here. And decoration is always okay, especially when the topics like armors and everything. Decoration is more than fine. And also, if still anyone is new in here, I do have a YouTube channel, so if you are interested in following, feel free to follow in there too. It will be my pleasure to let you know. Also, if someone is like watching on Twitch, there's also a Discord server that I have made where I basically announce where I stream and everything, where also you can like put some artworks. I'm not like extremely active in there because I don't have like tons of free time, but from time to time I try to like go in there and just read some stuff and just maybe give some pointers if I see someone needs some help. So yeah, feel free to visit me there. Okay, now let me try to introduce a bit more light to it, but I feel it looks kind of okay-ish. So let me try to think. It looks definitely better than it used to. So I will add the cloth. Okay, I need to work on the cloth, and after working on the cloth, I will proceed to like start adding finishing details and everything, because in the next stream most likely I will try to animate this fella, because this is like one of the goals that I had, to make like this 2D idle type of an animation. And I have been searching for some software that can do just this, and I found Spine. I heard about it previously. I heard it's pretty good, so I will be trying to. I will download the trial and I will try to figure everything out on the fly. Maybe on a stream, to figure it out. It will be a cool opportunity to learn something new, and it's always a good idea to like expand on the abilities that we have. Won't hurt to learn something new. It's always a good idea to develop your skills. And 2D animation, like a flat idle animation, is something that I really wanted to make for a really long period of time now. Because on the previous stream I was also showing the artwork of Johann Szepacz, and his animation, like idle animation of like a cat from his IP, blew my mind. It was absolutely stunning, it was absolutely beautiful, so it's really worth checking. Johann Szepacz. And one of the things that I need to remember is this is a Hell Knight. So this is like the piece of cloth that he is wearing. It won't be in a perfect condition. It will be dirty, it will be torn a bit. It will be damaged because of all the fights that this guy had with other like Hell's creature, because I can imagine in Hell all the monsters are really like hierarchically organized, like there's a hierarchy going on in there. And I don't see monsters using diplomacy much. I see them more like fighting and proving who is the strongest one, so, or the smartest one. I can imagine some like mages and everyone to be kinda high in the chain food because they are just smart and they were able to like outsmart stronger enemies, which is also a valid tactic. So yeah. And now adding a bit more red to it. I kind of wanted to keep the red a bit more saturated because there's no way it will be very saturated after, for example, a really long use, or after being exposed to all the stuff that he is exposed to. Let me turn the edges a bit more so it will look a bit more damaged. I also will need to add some holes to it. I will also need to add the cloth in the back. It's something that I see really often people are forgetting. Usually if you have like a cloth on your crotch area, you will also have a cloth on your ass area. So this is one of the things that, yeah, people should remember a bit more. Well, and the bottom part can be torn. I could design some sort of a symbol for him, for those, because this is like a knight, so having some sort of a symbol would be nice. The most appropriate one to like fit Diablo will be just to add a pentagram to it, because like Diablo and pentagrams, this is like basically one-to-one. It's like a perfect fit to each other, so maybe I will do it, maybe not. I also see the angle of a blade is slightly off. Maybe this was what was causing me some problems. Because if I draw a line, a straight line, I will add something to make the transformation a bit more obvious, and I will just transform it. The angle of a hilt to the middle. Okay, you can imagine. Well, let's go through the middle. Yeah, you can see the left part is slightly lacking. It's a bit more moved towards the right side, the entire thing. So I can imagine this area, like this thing, well, to be moved just slightly to the left. Few pixels, but those type of things matter when you are doing an illustration. I'm not really fond of this sword. It's not like the best sword that I have ever done, but it's not bad either, so it is fine for me. Yeah. I kinda can imagine like a stronger light to be on the ground. Actually, a type of a light, if I would take like this bluish type of a color, to be like like this. So you can imagine that you have like a spots of light, of like a really bright light on the ground. It would look kind of neat with all, for example, this would be hard thing to add. Let me add it on a new layer. Generally, this is like a cheese fest of like light setup and everything, but if I will do filter, blur, box blur, yeah, so to add this type of a god rays. Oh, this blue actually looks kind of nice. Linear.add. I do believe color dot looks a bit better. I might actually leave it. I kind of like how it looks like. Nice. And this is how you design stuff, by accident. On a spot, you don't really think anything over. This is how you do it. So I will take a brush, lower the opacity so it will be like really gentle. So I can easily like create stuff like this. So I would imagine this will be like a secondary type of a light source. So maybe it will create some sort of a rim light on a character, which is kind of nice. I always like those type of things. And what I like, it creates the V with the sword. So let me wait, in here I was making those type of stuff, yeah. So let me make some sort of a... This actually makes a lot of sense for the... yeah, but now why? What are those ugly areas? Those dirt areas. So something like this, but let me try. Well, okay, so I am using blending modes, so I will light the ground a bit more, but just slightly. I don't want this light to be too strong, but even though something like this looks really tempting. Or maybe at first I will add something like this, so a bit of a brighter spot, and then on top of this I will add this like gloom, like glow type of a thing. Now we are kind of going to like the cheese lens, but the transition needs to be a bit stronger, so the gradient will like feel more like this. This will be like linear dodge. This kind of changes what I originally intended to do with the light, but maybe. Let me try it. I kind of like the fact that it kind of brings something a bit more interesting to it, because like without it, it looks now kind of boring. Without those three things, it looks kind of unfinished. Let me place those over a fog. No, fog. And the fog will be brighter because of this. What if I will put the fog to? If I will turn off the fog. Is the fog like glue? Ah, okay. There are two fog layers. No, I kinda like the fog. What will happen if I will change those two? No. Just combine it. Yeah, I need to change that because there were too many details on the fog, so now I feel just making it a bit bigger and a bit more vertical helps to reduce the amount of detail on the foreground, and I kind of want to reduce the amount of details on the foreground. And I don't want to have too many like dark spots. This is a bit of a problem in terms of like changing the entire light setup, because it's not the best way to actually design things. I feel like adding this, like those glowy things in the background, actually heavily benefit the character. It really brings some cool details in. I'm not sure about the ground though. I don't think it should be like this powerful. I think it should be a bit more delicate. And also those lights should be a bit more delicate. So it won't be like this type, this powerful. Let me just current layer, let me grab this color. It will leave some like dots of light here and there. For example, in the background, I need to like smudge it pretty heavily. Also, this might be the point where I completely overdo it, which basically means that I will mess up the entire painting because I'm trying like too hard to make it nice. Happens. Okay, now introducing those forced me to add some sort of a reflected light. So this will be like a linear dodge, but on a lowered opacity. So the armor on the ground will actually like reflect some of the light in here. And I have noticed that actually linear dodge is usually the best to like add reflected light. And also having some sort of a reflected light source on the ground really helps to tie everything together. Because this way you have like the additional layer of interaction between objects. So, and I can imagine this type of a thing will like, because this is like metal, this type of a thing will like reflect a light quite a lot. Of course, for example, areas like in here will reflect like much less of it. It will slightly reflect, but not much. And only the areas that are really close to the ground will reflect most of the light, but still some of the light will get reflected. And I don't really have like tons of experience with like reflecting stuff like this, so pardon me if it does not look good. But for example, the golden part on the cloth can be a bit brighter, and even like the areas underneath the thigh, this could like make them a bit more, could introduce a bit more of a light through it. And some of the areas in the sword too. Like basically darker areas will just have some of the reflected light to it. And like the deep areas like in here, now we'll have like a justified level of reflection. Okay. And also I noticed I need to rework the fingers a bit more because they are heavily unfinished. Because they are really close to what we do have in here. I want to kind of like move them a bit back so they are like not touching the thigh. But the amount of color and light that I have in here should be enough. Let me turn on the opacity. It's not much of a work, but the small areas matter. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure how the light will behave on the ground like this. Where is this this area. I should search for some sort of a reference, but well, let me just kinda go with the flow. Reduce the opacity to like 25% so I can be, it will be easier for me to add those type of stuff. Now also, if I have this entire thing on the ground, I'm not sure if I like it, honestly. It adds this something. It adds this something to the painting. I think the fog now is a bit problematic. It does not look how I want it to look like. So maybe actually creating please don't tell me this line is like, okay. I was afraid for a moment this line is like permanently imbued in here. So this can go over this. And what if those lights, not all layers, but current layers, what if those lights will also like go in here, but they also need to be like painted through here, so the light will actually also like lay down in those areas. Like the only logical explanation for me for those areas is the fact that, I don't know, there are some like holes in the ceiling or whatever, and some sort of a light is passing through. I don't know. Now I kind of try to go with a bit more with the cool factor instead of like the logical factor. But definitely the light is not like coming from the back, but it should be coming like from the front. So if it's coming from the front, then color does nice things to colors. I like how it adds a bit of a blue here and there. So this is nice. It like just creates those nice textures. So I will like keep it, but I will, on a new layer, I will actually add some of the god rays that will like justify that will justify those things to appear, and also that will lead our character. So now let me just create some of those. So again, I'm painting those in with a really low opacity, because I kind of want to control the lines, and they will go like here to here to the back, and they will kind of obscure. They will kind of obscure the thing well. Or maybe it will be a better idea to just search for God rays. To search for God rays online, so we will get a nicer effect. So let me just test how it looks like if we use actually the ready-made ones, just for to check the stuff. Linear.add. I will need to like rotate them like this, and then rotate them back so I have more control over those angles. Yeah. I could like apply it throughout everything. I actually kind of like what it makes with the ground, like with the light, especially with the character. It's a little bit too much, so maybe let me mask it more. But I kind of like the feel that it adds to the entire thing. Definitely this area is a bit too bright. Now, this one in here, it's a bit too much of a glow type of a thing. But I even like the color. I thought it was a little bit too green. But I like this greenish hue. Also, let me try the blending modes, so it will ignore the darker areas. And this actually looks really good when I make it just barely ignore some of the darker areas. Because as you can see, like, now it's like washed out a bit. Now the dark shadows are in there. They are a bit too strong though. So I think I should go with something like this, but just lower the well. Okay, the fill was already kind of low. So now it's like adjusting stuff. 15, 13%, no. 12%, no. 10%, 10% does it for me. And now I would love to add, I will also lower the opacity a bit. I would love to add some sort of a rim light on the character, because I love rim lights. They always look good. They always look good. And let me check if it will look okay. For the rim lights, again, it's good to just increase the opacity. A relatively dark color. This one can be a bit brighter though. Okay. Opacity be gone. Yeah, lower the fill. So it will, what it does, it basically, like, yeah, this is like a type of a just type of a light to add. But the problem with the rim light is it's extremely easy to overdo it. Rim lights should be done with like extreme care, because overdoing rim lights is like the easiest thing on the entire earth, and usually the thing that you will see once an artist discover a rim light, they will like put the rim light throughout the entire character. Like the entire character will be like in a rim light. It will be just basically like a stroke all over him or her, or whatever it is. It will be just a contour. I really would like to avoid contouring. I just want to like make some edges pop out a bit more. So I think it will add those fine details to some surfaces. For example, like the helmet in here or the horn in here. Also, it does not need to be like extremely precise with the geometry. It can like create this little bloom over it, so it will kind of show that this rim light kind of glows in a sense. Yeah, and also, as you can see, even adding those small rim lights to the horns, it kind of makes them read a bit better. It just feels a bit more natural, I would say, in this case. It increases the feeling of geometry. And this is a really small thing to add, but it does help a lot. And it also allows me to improve on the, oh no, this highlight is wrong. On some highlights here and there. In here I can imagine some of the light will be catch a bit, and it will reflect a bit. But again, this is like a really subtle thing. I don't want to overdo it. There is already some sort of like secondary light in here, so I don't want it to be like all over the place, everywhere. But also again, some of the things that people will do is something like this. Don't do something like this, it just kills the entire painting. Okay, and also on the second area in here, I can like really easily add some rim lights. So I will like separate the back armor, like this shoulder from the front. But again, it needs to be done carefully, so I won't do it. Now it's a little bit overdone. Okay, I think it looks okay-ish. And one of the things that I kind of also want to include in this fella, so I want to soften this, is to kind of drop a shadow on part of his horns, because I feel they're a bit too bright. So let's say there is like a like the soft light coming from the top. But for example, the horns are not touched by it. So it means they are not in light. What means this horn won't get this shit, and this horn won't get this, and this won't get this. So it's just to showcase a little bit more depth to it. I do believe it does a good job. Also, if you don't want to select something that is overlaying everything, you can just like put a lock on it and just adjust it. I only want to like change the oh hell yeah, I want to slightly change the angle, because I feel it should go more like this. Usually what I do with stuff like this is I Control Z it. Yeah, it looks a bit better. Now let me paint over the area that I have in here. All layers. Instead of all layers, I select current layer, so I can pick the colors from underneath every single adjustment that I have, and it will make my life easier. I also need to make this part of a blade darker, because it's not lit. I do believe this shadow on the top works nicely. Might be a bit too strong. I need to remove it slightly from the helmet. Yeah, but it does a good job. And also now this area will be more in the shadow. This area will be more in the shadow. I believe this area will be a bit more in the shadow. So it's now relighting everything a bit more, so I can like be a bit more consistent with what is going on in here. And I do believe this top piece will cast a longer shadow across the cloth. I also need to remember to add the second part of the cloth. Yeah, because again, it's not the amount of details that really matter, it's the quality of light and shadow that matters. And hell, if I know everything about it, I absolutely don't. But I am kind of like, let's say, mindful about it, so I'm trying to think about it consistently. But well, practice is what determines the rate of success in those cases. It's kind of a shame that this hole won't be visible because of the cloth in the ass, because the ass, if you are not sure where something is, just use good old geometry. This is like the waistline, front and back. Ass cheeks are in here, so the cloth Yeah, basically we'll go like this. If this cloth goes from the front. So yeah. Well, as cloth. This looks really odd. And it looks odd because it does not have a proper fog behind it, because it's a little bit more behind. There should be some like aerial perspective thing happening, so it will be a bit more, it will have less value. It won't be as prominent in real life, like you won't see something like this, like in this distance, to have like that big of a difference. But in painting we usually try to emphasize on stuff that we paint, so if you're emphasizing on something, that make sure it just reads nicely. Yeah, stuff like this. This hole is a bit too big. Current layer is always a good thing, because then I won't pick up the colors from over the top after all the adjustments and everything. What else can I do in here? Okay, let me go back to the shadow. Current layer. I feel this part of a horn will cast a small shadow on the face. This darker. This darker. Maybe even like the entire, this darker. Like this darker. Yeah, this darker. And this way. This darker, because I don't really like the strong light in here. I do believe this area darker won't grab as much as attention as it does right now. I need to be really gentle with it, so it won't be like too dark in there. But on a new layer above everything, I can just select this, well, bluish hue. And I can kind of like mask it, because I want the certain areas I would love to be darker. Let's say in here I can like kind of add a glow to it, and around everything on the ground I want it to just be darker, because there is not a lot of need for the light to go like this. For the blade will be like darker, the entire part of it. Let me go like this, and let me put it to actually like multiply, so it will be like visible. Now also behind the entire character I would love to give it a little bit more light behind him, so there will be some sort of a like linear dodge, so the silhouette will just read slightly better, but just slightly. Okay, so it's a glow. So it's not a big change, but as you can see in the black and white, it just slightly brings the entire character out. And now for the flames in the eyes, let me search for Dark Souls red eyes, because I need to see how they did it, because I always liked how Dark Souls did it. And yeah. Webs, huevo, poof. Oh, it's also like black, blue, and golden night type of a thing. Nice. It feels nice, but you can see like the quality of rendering here in terms of like metal is 10 times better than in here. Now I feel like redoing a lot of stuff. So for example, take this color and for example to like introduce it in here, because this is exactly what I need to do to make it look better. So again, this is a thing that I was talking about previously. I remembered to add reflected light from the top, but I somehow forgot about it like while working on it. So now I will just like slightly add more reflected light from the top, because of course, even though the top area is not like a light source per se, it still is lighter, which means the surfaces that are kind of pointing upward will still like reflect some of the light, what basically means all the areas like in here and in here will get additional light, what basically means the entire thing will get a bit more 3D in a sense. For example, the top of his thighs will get brighter. That's again, you can just combine all those informations, and soon when I will turn off this is the rim light, it needs to be more delicate in here, but even now, as you can see, it's not much. But it does bring them. I can't decide how strong I want it to be. Yeah, it's not much, but it brings out a lot of geometry out, especially in the shadow areas. So it's a simple fix, but it does add a lot of thing. So yeah, a good reference, really good reference. I also like how the gold is behaving in here, but this is like a thing that is really specific to 3D. 3D always make a good gold look good. So yeah, now when I look at it, I don't really like the heavy, how to say it, the thick edges. I prefer much more those like subtle edges, and I kind of wish I had more of those type of things happen on this design, but well, I have not thought about it previously, so the next night that I will like randomize, I will make him have more of the like sculptural design. This one is just basically flat metal piece. Just adjust the highlight on this area. I could try to add some of those like scribbles, but it's a bit too late for it right now. Yeah, so let me just see what will happen if I will just press it down together. I will just combine it together, and what will happen if I will select auto color, auto contrast, everything. Auto color does a wonderful job to the colors. Auto contrast, I don't like it that much. Auto tone is kind of cool. It's really like, I will take a bit of all. So the first thing with the colors, new layer, image, auto color, change the light color mode to color. Now it looks much more like a Warhammer type of a thing. But let me add it only slightly. I want those like green hues in there. Now in this case, auto contrast. Let me about luminosity. Luminosity will be good, but let me reduce the feel. So it immediately, like, it really makes the entire thing much brighter and much more contrasty. I like it, but it needs to be like a really delicate type of a thing. And this one, auto-tune, I kinda like for this highlights. So in this case, I will use the underlaying type of a thing and just blend it together. So all the highlights will get those blue touches. And I will slightly reduce the fill. And yeah, and now I just remembered that I took the reference for the eyes and I did not do the eyes. Brilliant. Pure brilliancy. But yeah, okay, I will make the eyes last. So this is how it looks like. This is how it looks now. This is how it looks like. This is how it looks now. Entire head, but let me add eyes first. So again, where is the ref? This. Yeah, so let me just promptly steal them. Okay. Because I like this magenta type of a color. I'm not a huge fan of like red because I do believe it's not the best color to use for the eyes. And if I am going for something as cheesy as glowing eyes, then I want it to be done nicely. And the best way to do something nicely is to see how someone more skilled did it. And they did it nicely. So let me just check the color. And you can see it's pure red, but it's pure red, but not a pure dark red, which is kind of interesting. I thought it's more like magenta-like. So let me add this glow in here. And still, even though I don't want it to like be red, I still like flame. I still wanted to kind of like give this flame type of a thing. Oh. Kind of funny that they can get away with basically doing like the white center in their design. Hello, it's Meeblert. For the entire thing, I thought it's Mealbert. Like previously, I thought it was Meeblert. Meeblert also works. But yeah, something like this. Let's see how it looks like. It looks good. Let's now try to add the white center to it. In my case, the white center does not work at all. So there it goes. But I like how the linear dodge add version looks like. So let me add current layer. Let me just add a bit more of it. Nice. Ah, okay. So I accidentally guessed your real name. Nice. Mine will be Eric if I would try to use the same thing because I am like Eric. So it will be like, if I will switch the little, it will be Eric. Which sounds really fucking stupid. Okay, but I still like the dark eyes, but because the original design has red eyes, this one will have red eyes too. Let me check this glow. Maybe the glow will do the thing. They do have this like solid red glow. Oh, I kinda like the glow, especially on linear dodge. Okay, this is the thing that I like. The gem needs to glow a bit too. Both gems needs to glow a bit too. but also the gems need to be much darker because all layers, because it's too bright. I don't want it to be that bright. So we'll just take an overlay, most likely, to darken it down. Yep. And before applying the glow, I need to reduce the reflection of light because it is too much. The highlight is too strong in here. But the red area on the red thing in here should be stronger. So the light will like go through the gem and stop in there. This is nice. And here the same story. Reflection darker, more reddish like, and the light can go through. Yeah, I feel this looks that better. I kind of wonder if maybe this I should. It's a bit more of like a berserk type of a thing with like one eye being like red. Kind of like the more aggressive type of a dot to be in here. The second eye will also produce a small glow. But in here, I will just flatten it a bit more so it's not as hard of a shape. A bit lower. Needs to be and a bit more to the back. Well, okay, this is a bit more smaller, but with some flame also going out of it. Okay, this I like. Let me duplicate the base. I want to make the central part, the head area, brighter. Okay. Now I'm just basically fine-tuning everything, so yeah, it will be done today. Also, after making all the adjustments, I don't really feel like animating it anymore. But most likely I will just like separate it from the background, like in here, like in the final, and then like, paint in the missing parts. And definitely the horn is like disappearing in this area, so this area needs to be like painted, so there will be like a reflected light, but also this horn won't like disappear out of existence. Let me remove the reference. All layers. Okay. This darker area is also needed in here, so it's basically kind of like a core shadow type of a thing, I believe. This will basically be it. So it's like painting over like finished painting to kind of merge all the layers together. It's always a good idea to kind of like give it like those final touches and whatnot. Okay, so boom, boom, and now the final touch, this color that I added on the armor also should be reflected on the top of the horns, because the horns are not lit by the main light source, but it will be, there will be lit by like the ambient type of a light source. I don't know if I can name it like this, but I will name it like this, like the environmental light kinda. So let's see if this makes them look a bit nicer. This a bit overdone. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, okay. Yeah, they look a bit nicer. So let me just fuse it all together. Let me take some dust particles, PNG type of a thing. Because if you are going to have some god rays, dust particles are like must be in here. So I just basically found the image on the web, like duplicate it, rotate it several times so it's not like the uniform type of a thing. I could paint them, but for those type of things I always believe using photographs is much better, because you basically, like, the natural way of the dust scattering is definitely going to look nicer. And it does not need to be like huge. I can paint a bit of a dust in here because I do have like a dusty type of a brush. But again, this will be like really gentle touches set on like linear dodge, let's say. And I just want some like bigger and smaller clumps to be in here. Okay. Small fix that I need to make regarding this area is filter, as correction, but filter liquify. It's a bit not, well, it's a bit not curvy enough for my liking. It needs to curve a bit more. Okay, this is a small fix. This armor piece in here needs to intrude from the background, so yeah, something like this. So it won't be like one blob. This a bit more gentle. And a really cool thing that I always like to do, the blade can be a bit brighter. A really cool thing that I always like to do is, let me show you a display capture. So usually the way I finish paintings, now I see also this area needs to be brighter. This area, because these are like the highlights, the most like catching light areas, so they need to be brighter. Front of the helmet will also grab a bit more light. So usually how I approach into like finishing a painting to give it like this next like level of polish, slightly darker in here, slightly darker in here, well, is to, let me make a sword brighter in here. I will duplicate it to like a new document. Then I will like really slightly resize it. I will make it a bit smaller. Then I will go to filter, lens correction, custom, and of course first what you need to do is to cut it out from all the background. Filter, lens correction, custom, and I will remove the distortion around 10, so it creates like this kind of like bend to the middle, so like the middle gets smaller and the outer layer gets bigger, so it basically makes something like this to happen to the image. So everything that is in the middle gets smaller and the outside gets a bit bigger, so which kind of like, I always thought like it kind of wraps the image around me. Then I select the missing parts, I invert the selection, select, modify, expand 3 pixels, shift F5, content aware, fill, and it basically generates what was missing, and then I just take a smudge layer type of a thingy, just go over the edge, because it usually leaves like the empty pixel on the edge, so there you have it, there you know it. And also now I will like duplicate this guy, take a smudge tool, and I will just smudge him in some areas, in some places. With like strength of 10 is fine. So it won't everything be like uniform. I don't want every single area to be like extremely sharp. Some areas I want to be slightly like softer, slightly harder. For example, the areas on the leg are not as important. In here, the cloth in the back can be slightly like touched. So I'm just trying to like soften up some edges. I'm not really following any like solid logic behind it. I kind of do it where I feel it could be done. So for example, in the shadow, a sword could definitely get some like smudging here and there, so it won't be as strong of a thing. I could paint a bit more of like the light in here, so it will kind of introduce a bit more light to it. But yeah, as you can see, it works kind of okay. Just softening some edges. I absolutely forgot about this area, but the fix would be to just add some light to it and to add some like shadow to it. So and to soften up the edge, yeah, let me quickly just rework it slightly because it's a bit uneven. And to add some like stuff in here. Yeah, so it looks kind of okay-ish. This part can be a bit darker because I actually will remove it. I prefer just it to be spiky. This, or maybe not, but it will be darker on the edge. So it won't glow as much. Using textures actually make gold appear usually nicer, but it was not a painting to experiment with tons of textures. It was just to push my kind of like illustration and concept arting type of a detailed designs. I don't want to save it yet. But yeah, as you can see, let me copy the entire thing again. Well, let me paste it in here. Like now it looks kind of fat, now he looks kind of less fat. So yeah, I think this is a final. So woohoo, after 6 streams and I have no idea how many hours it's finished. Most likely I will play a bit more with some sliders, just like to make some really simple adjustments. Usually the adjustments that I make in the end, but I don't think it will be needed in here, is I create like a new layer. I create like a white like glow inside of it. Then I create with the symmetry a dark edge, kind of like a vignette in a sense. And then I just simply like put it to like overlay with like a really low fill. So for example, like 10% or something like this. And same in the middle, overlay or soft light. Soft light usually works better. Same for something like 10%. And match. Oh, okay, this is not the good layer. This is the layer. Soft light 10%. Because what it does. Oh my god, this Photoshop is dumb sometimes. Yeah, what it does in black and white, you can see, kind of brings the values a bit more to the middle or to the areas where I want them to be. So it's not a big change, but I think it is noticeable. So yeah, thanks for watching, and this is a final. And yeah, off to the next one. We will go in the next stream. So I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed the process of this guy, and see ya to the next time.